Okay, our next topic is the branches of ethnobotany. We have studied this particular ethnobotany in the plant resource development, and in that topic, we have only considered the importance in the of the ethnobotany. Because this topic is literally given in the UPSC main syllabus, and majority of the time, the question were also asked by the UPSC in the max examination on this particular topic of the ethnobotany. Because as it connects with the traditional knowledge, and hence it can be the part of GS as well. So this topic becomes very, very important from the mains examination point of view, and that is why we should go thoroughly through this particular ethnobotany topic. Now, as we have studied what is the importance of the ethnobotany from the Indian point of view, now we will focus on various branches which are there for the ethnobotany. Okay, there are actually various aspects regarding this particular term, and these aspects can be grouped into the different headings. And these headings we should study them carefully in order to justify our answer in the UPSC mains examination. Now consider this is your syllabus. We are dealing with the paper number 1 and the chapter number 4, that is plant resource development. And we are here the importance of the ethnobotany in the Indian context. Okay. Now see, when we talk about the ethnobotany, the one thing you should clearly remember is that it is a study of the native plants plus the peoples. Okay. Here, how the peoples are going to interact with the different plants in their surrounding, this study is called as the ethnobotany. So when it comes to ethnobotany, primarily two terms are there. The very first is the plants, and second is the people. Whatever the plants which are there in a contact with the lives of the people, the study of this whole thing is considered as a ethnobotany. Now, this comes as a traditional knowledge. Okay. Whatever the traditional knowledge, in India we have the very famous concept of the Ayurveda, and this Ayurveda can also be considered under the ethnobotanical studies, because there is a traditional knowledge, there is a knowledge regarding the plant with the people who are using them from the centuries, okay, for the different purposes. So this particular knowledge, this traditional knowledge of the plants which people have, the study of it is called as the ethnobotany. Now, when it comes to the various branches of the ethnobotany, the very first branch come to the mind is called as the ethnobiology. Okay, the very first branch you should consider is the ethnobiology. Now, when we talk about the ethnobiology, it is nothing but the interaction between the peoples and the plants. Okay, whatever the peoples are there, and in that surrounding, whatever the plant material is there, how they are going to interact with this plant material, and how they live with this particular ecosystems treasure which is given to them naturally by the nature. That is, you should study whatever the relationship between the people and the life forms surrounding them. Okay, whatever the life forms are there which are surrounding the people, this we have to study under the ethnobiology. This ethnobiology term itself has two words. First is the ethno, that is the ethnobotany, and second is the biology. Whatever the surrounding biology is there regarding the ethnobotanical studies, if you study them with their biology, with that of the different kinds of the plants, different kinds of the drugs which they take out from the plants, different kinds of the food material they take out from the plant, if you study this in and all, this particular study will come under the ethnobiology. So ethnobiology can be considered as a broad term. Okay, because we are considering whole of the ecosystem and how the peoples are interacting with that living ecosystem, that will be the study part of the ethnobiology. Now, the second branch we have in the ethnobotany is the ethnomycology. Okay, here again we have to put the heading, that is ethnomycology, and you are already familiar with both the terms, that is ethnobotany and the mycology. Mycology is nothing but the study of the fungi. As you know, in the earliest times, we are using mushroom as our food material. Okay, and before the knowledge regarding the botanical knowledge regarding the classification of plant, these are particular mushrooms were also considered as a plants. Okay, but today we know mushrooms are the fungi. Okay, and they are completely different from the plants. But earlier times, when we are using them as a food material, people thought that they were also the plants, and that is why we are using them for the food purposes. So studying the different kinds of the fungi, whatever the fungi are there in the traditional knowledge, if you study them, it will all come under the ethnomycology. So you should understand, when it comes to the ethnomycology, we are dealing with the traditional knowledge of fungi. Whatever the traditional knowledge of fungi is there with the people from the centuries, if you study them, it will come under the ethnomycology. Okay, so as the heading is self-explanatory, that is the fungi are there, the traditional knowledge regarding the fungi, if you study them, it will all come under the ethnomycology. Then the third one we have is called as the ethnoscience. Okay, it is called as the ethnoscience. Now again, it is also a broad term, and it is nothing but the study of the various cultures regarding the plant and the people. Okay, if you are studying the culture of the any region of the world and you are dealing with the plants plus people, then it will all come under the ethnoscience. That is, you can consider this as a broad term or the umbrella term. And this ethnoscience is dealing with the studying of the culture of the different cultural peoples throughout the world. And if you are specifically going for their plant habits, how they are using the plants for the different purposes, then it will all come under the ethnoscience. Okay. Then the fourth branch of the ethnobotany we are dealing with is the ethnomedicine. Okay, and again the heading is self-explanatory. Okay, whatever the medicines which are coming out of the plants, if you are studying them traditionally, then it is called as the ethnomedicine. For example, today through the advanced knowledge we know the drugs name like the Taxol, right? There are many chemical compounds which we use for the different purposes, such as the vinblastine, vincristin can be used as the anti-cancer drugs. But this is the latest knowledge. Okay, in the ethnomedicine, what we do, whatever the traditional knowledge of a plant is there regarding with the different types of the drugs which are obtained from the plant, it will all comes under the ethnomedicine. So the fourth branch of the ethnobotany is the ethnomedicine, in which we are going to study the different medicinal values of a different plant which are used by the used by the people throughout the world from the centuries. Okay, it's a age old knowledge regarding the plants, that how we can use the plants as a medicine. And if you study on this particular path, then it will all come under the ethnomedicine. Okay, now the many cultures such as the Indian Ayurvedic culture, then there is a Chinese traditional methods are there, then the Native American people's methods are there. All these are the examples of the ethnomedicine. Okay, now the next branch we have for the ethnobotany is the ethnopharmacology. Okay, you should remember the ethnopharmacology. Now again, the heading is self-explanatory. Here we are dealing with the pharmacology. Okay, so it is the study of the effects and mode of action of the naturally occurring chemical compounds. Okay, whatever the naturally occurring chemical compounds are there within the plant body, and plant people are using this particular natural compound to heal themselves. Then if you are studying the chemical compounds which are literally coming from the traditional knowledge of the plants and their effect on the people who are using them, then it will all comes under the ethnopharmacology. Okay, as you know, in the pharmacology, this is the quite an advanced term, and we always do the drug testing under this particular topic. Okay, so whatever the chemical compounds which are used by the people through the traditional knowledge, all of these chemical compounds, if you are studying them through the traditional knowledge, then it will all comes under the ethnopharmacology. All right, the next branch we have regarding the ethnobotany is the ethnomusicology. Now this is interesting. This is relating with the music. Okay, musicology. Now when it comes to the music, there are many traditional music, you know. Okay, there are many tribal peoples who has their own music system. Okay, so whatever the music instruments which are created by these particular plants through using the different parts of the plants. Okay, so if you are studying the musical instruments which are created out of the different plants, so by through the traditional knowledge, this will all come under the ethnomusicology. Now when it comes to the musicology, we are not studying the musical beats here. Okay, what we are studying is the musical instrument which is created out of the plants by these peoples by using the traditional knowledge. That is what we can study, what is the process of creation these are natural musical instruments through the plants, then which type of the plants are actually used to create such a musical instrument. Okay, which part of the plant and why they are using that, because creating the musical instrument is not the easy thing, but still they are creating it. So what is the process, which type of plants they are using, which type of plant part they are using, all of this becomes very very important, right? So it will all comes under the ethnomusicology. Now the next and the final branch of the ethnobotany is the ethnoecology. Again, the heading is the self-explanatory. It here the ecology is got involved, whole of the ecology. Now see, it refers to the understanding and the documenting how people perceive and manage the ecosystem in which they are inhabiting, in which they are have their own habitat. For example, traditional peoples are living in the habitat of the ecosystem and they were very peaceful with their surroundings. Then what are their methods which are really helping them to remain in a very close contact with the ecosystem but still not disturbing the ecosystem? So here we can study the ecology of the peoples, how they were living peacefully with the nature, unlike today's situation where we always find it become very difficult to live alongside with the nature's laws. because in the modern world, the problems like the deforestation and the global warming is there just because of the habitat destruction. But earlier times, the people, when these are peoples were largely adapted to the nature, and hence they are very peaceful with that of the ecosystem. So how these people live so peacefully with that ecosystem, if you want to study this will all comes under the ethnoecology, because they were acquiring natural habitat in the ecosystem, and they were acting like a natural animal in the ecosystem at that time. But here, in the 21st century, the things have changed, and we are typically isolated from the ecosystem now, and we consider as our human as a non-existent part of the ecosystem, because when it comes to the ecosystem in the 21st century, we are typically isolated, except we are taking the oxygen right from the environment, then the different food material from the environment, but still we are disturbing this particular environment due to our large population problems. But earlier times this was not the case, and the peoples are living, occupying the habitat in the ecosystem in a very natural way, and they were very peaceful with that particular ecosystem. And hence, if you are studying these ecosystems and how these peoples were traditionally living in this ecosystem by acquiring the natural habitat, it will all come under the ethnoecology. Okay. So when it comes to the branches of the ethnobotany, the 7 branches are there. It's called the ethnobiology, ethnomycology, ethnoscience, then the ethnomedicine, ethnopharmacology, ethnomusicology, and the ethnoecology. Okay, you should understand them carefully, and you can use this particular information to design your answer in the UPSC mains examination. All right.